Welcome, everyone, to the best debate ever. Not the presidential debate, because let's be honest, if this was the presidential debate, all three of us would be good running candidates, I believe. But I'm here, Big Kev, representing Michael Jordan. The Prodigal Hills representing Kobe, and Stephen Rose is representing the LeBron James,
King
um,
James.
King James. So let's start off with you, Stephen. Why do you think LeBron James is the GOAT?
All right. Well, first of all, King James came into the league in 2003 and debuted against the Sacramento Kings, where King James delivered, I think, 23 points in his first game against the Kings. And since then, he has played 20 years in the league, going on 21 this upcoming season. LeBron James has accomplished 10 NBA Finals trips in which he won 4. So that's 40% correct, pretty much. Like 40% of the time, he wins the finals. That's almost 50. It's not bad compared to most players. LeBron James also made 8 consecutive Eastern Conference finals. So that also means he has 8 Eastern Conference championships to add to the 4 NBA titles. Not to mention he's been 2-time reigning MVP. So LeBron James has been accomplishing a lot more in his career than most players combine to this day. LeBron James also played in Space Jam 2, which my little friend here, Kobe Bryant, has failed to do so. He didn't get the opportunity to be in Space Jam 2, but LeBron James did. LeBron James is known to be King James for a reason. He has earned his stripes. He's played for 3 NBA teams for the Cavaliers, delivering them their first NBA championship in 2017. Coming back from a 3-1 deficit to the Golden State Warriors. He has also delivered 2 championships to the Heatles, known as the Miami Heat, with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, making them relevant with Pat Riley. And not to mention, he has also acquired 1 championship with the Los Angeles Lakers in the bubble. He was able to win in Disney Orlando, Florida, with his buddies AD. And so, therefore, I would have to say that King James has earned his stripes. He's played over 1,400 basketball games, which he's played in fewer games than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he was able to accomplish more than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he's an all-time point leader, going on 38,652 points. He's going to be the first and only NBA player to reach 40,000 NBA points by the end of, if not his 21st season, it'll probably most likely be his 22nd when his son comes in. The only thing LeBron needs to do is get to 40,000 point club, 1 more ring, and also play with his son when his son gets in, and maybe even play a 23rd season to surpass Vince Carter's 22 NBA career, making LeBron James officially leader in points, leader in most years played, most NBA Finals trips, maybe not most NBA championships, but, if you can win a 5th one to throw the cherry on top with that 40,000 points that LeBron James is going to get, we can make the argument. I think LeBron James is the GOAT and will always be the GOAT. He also has better mechanics than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's a puny little runt, and LeBron James would instantly drive to the hole. Jordan's defense would not be able to hold LeBron James in the 90s if LeBron played for a contender. LeBron can play in the 90s and the 80s. He's built for those times. Jordan was able to beat a Detroit Pistons team who was old and decrepit. He finally beat Magic Johnson and the Lakers, 91-92? And Michael Jordan also took some time off, came back, won 3 more titles. Nice, impressive titles, no problem. But King James, statistically, is better than Michael Jordan, and he can out-hoop Michael Jordan, and he can also out-hoop 1-star Kobe Bryant. And LeBron James is doing that at 39 or almost 39 years of age, coming up in December. And he's still the king and still the GOAT. And therefore, if you put LeBron in the same ring with Kobe and Jordan in a game of 21, LeBron James comes out the victor in that. So I'm going to have to declare that King James is the greatest of all time. Pass the mic.
All right, Prodigal Hill, your chance to rebuttal as to why Kobe Bryant is the GOAT.
Well, aside from LeBron's UNICEF points that he's been donated to the NBA by playing against, weaker competition, you can look at the NBA today and tell that the 90s was the toughest era in all of basketball that we've seen so far to play, or the 2000s, I should say. The 2000s was the toughest era in basketball. It was the most defensive era in basketball. Uh, no doubt that actually Kobe had competition, which it seems that they had to lower the bar for LeBron James. Now, as far as my boy Kobe Bryant, he has been to five. He has won 5 NBA titles without having like the 14 fucking Hall of Famers that Kobe had to go ahead and jump and skip, and or LeBron James had to go to and jump and skip and go ahead and form super teams with his little buddies and stuff to go ahead and accumulate how many championships? 4. Well, Kobe's got one more than you. He's also been to one more. He's also competed for one more than Michael Jordan. He came into the league in 1996, straight out of high school. Now, as Stat Pad LeBron over here likes to sit there and tell you that statistics matter. Whenever you got to understand that whenever Kobe first started, he didn't start whenever he came out. And in fact, he only really started 8 games in the first 150 games. And he wasn't getting near the shots that LeBron or Michael was afforded to getting whenever he first started. Didn't mean that he couldn't score at a much better rate than LeBron James could at 18 whenever he first came out. It doesn't mean that he couldn't score at a comparative rate that Jordan did whenever he first came out. What that means is he just didn't get the same shots. He didn't get the same looks. And then, by the time Kobe was 24, how many titles did he have? When did LeBron win his first title? He came out of high school just as well. So he was far more accomplished than the LeBron James over here. He had more titles under his belt by the time he was 24 than both LeBron and Jordan. And I'll go ahead and save my real good arguments for the debate. So I'll go ahead and pass this mic to you, Big Kev.
All right. So, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, 1984. Already, before he comes into the league, already an NCAA champion, already a one-time U.S. Olympic gold medalist. Rookie of the year. He went into a league that was built on bigger teams. Celtics, the Lakers, the Sixers. When he got drafted, he was drafted 3rd. Olajuwon was drafted ahead, and so was Sam Bowie. But both of those guys, it was a big man's league then. So Michael was the first guy to come in, besides Dr. J, to come in and actually show the glamour. Michael Jordan is the first guy to win MVP, 2 slam dunk championships, and won defensive player of the year the same year that he won MVP and the All-Star MVP. 3-time All-Star MVP, 10 scoring titles, 6-time NBA champion, 5-time MVP, 6-time NBA Finals MVP, all defensive team 9 times, has the most steals out of any shooting guard in the history of the NBA. Also, became a 2nd-time Olympic gold medalist with the Dream Team. Anytime he went to the Dream Team, they can talk about Monte Carlo. Michael Jordan was the first guy to get the NBA on the map globally. Michael was a megastar. Michael didn't even make that much money as a player. He actually made more money and actually took less money than Kobe and LeBron. And let me tell you something about LeBron. The one thing that Michael didn't do, Michael never did give up. He never did walk out on his team. And Michael used to put fear in players. They called him Black Jesus for a reason. The man defied gravity. And even at the age of 38, joins the Washington Wizards, scores the most points out of anyone at that age. And Michael was playing small forward then. Michael was playing against guys like Kobe and Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter and Grant Hill. Michael Jordan, another accomplishment that he did, he was a 14-time NBA All-Star, 3-time instant. He was basically done everything that you can think of. And that is my reason why I feel like Michael is the GOAT, is he played in the league with the 80s. He had to fight the bigger teams, and he got into the 90s where defense won championships. There were low scoring games. Michael had to endure a lot of beatdowns from a lot of teams, facing guys like Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, and all them. So that's the reason why I think he's the GOAT.
All right. I'll go ahead and do my counter argument for both, and we'll do the counter arguments now.
All right.
Well, unlike Jordan, LeBron didn't need to go to college because Jordan just wasn't good enough to get drafted out of high school. So therefore, LeBron James didn't need to go to college to get drafted. Now, Kobe came out of high school. I'll give him that. But Kobe wasn't good enough to start right away. LeBron James started immediately and almost took the Cavaliers to the playoffs the first 2 years, barely missing it, only to take them to an NBA Finals in which they got swept by the San Antonio Spurs. It took a guy like Boobie Gibson and Ilgauskas to his first ever NBA Finals. Even though we got swept, but at the end of the day, LeBron James was able to accomplish a lot with very little. Jordan had Pippen, he had Luke Longley, he had Steve Kerr. LeBron James had Boobie Gibson and Ilgauskas and Drew Gooden. Not really a good team, in my opinion, but LeBron James was able to accomplish something that many stars couldn't, bringing his team to a finals at a young age. Only for LeBron to defect and go to the Heat and join the Heatles, because Patrick Riley talked him into it, where the Heat were able to dominate the league for years. And LeBron did get 2 rings out of that deal. So it wasn't too bad. Then he goes and reunites with the Cavs and only then takes them to an NBA Finals. But unlike Jordan, he just wasn't good enough to be on a NBA level at high school level. So, Michael Jordan had to go to college for 4 years to make a name for himself. LeBron did that strictly out of high school. Didn't need much footage to do that. And as far as Kobe is concerned, Kobe was just injury plague riddled. He had the 81-point game against Toronto in 2006 against scrub team. No big deal. Kobe Bryant had stars to come with him to win, which LeBron got the same idea and did the same thing in Miami, but only to win it with Miami with a bunch of scrubs in Cleveland. And was able to accomplish very much with very little. Unlike these two guys where they got hurt a lot, LeBron James didn't get hurt a lot. LeBron James was able to maintain a long, lustrous career at 20 years and still going. And he has nothing but to look up more and maybe could win a ring or maybe even 2 before he steps out the door to tie with Jordan and surpass Kobe. LeBron James will be the greatest of all time once he surpasses the 40,000-point mark. Now I'll go ahead and pass the microphone to the Prodigal Heel in his argument for Kobe.
All right. Let's get down to business. Okay. So whenever Kobe came in, right, because he wasn't good enough to start. Well, he already had 2 all-star guards in front of him, and Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones. However, Kobe and Mike both had about 19, 20 shots a game that they had to go ahead and show off their shooting prowess. But Kobe only had like 8 such games in his first 150. And in those 8 games, you know, LeBron was scoring 21 points with the same amount of shots. Kobe Bryant was scoring 24.9 points coming out of high school. So no doubt he was much more refined by the time he got into the NBA. Than LeBron. He was just far more. This, is to be expected. Is it almost isn't fair because Kobe Bryant's father played in the NBA, played basketball in Europe. Kobe was playing against Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, whenever he was in high school. You know what I'm saying? He's playing with Manu Ginobili over there in Italy. He's playing with Vince Carter. He's playing with Tracy McGrady coming out of school and going into the NBA. Of course, he by the time he was 21, he had already made second team All NBA and already made his first All Defensive team. He's made 12 All Defensive teams. Mistaken? Am I mistaken? How many does LeBron have? Is it like 4 defensive teams? So he was the first two-way player. No doubt that Kobe had just a bit better, because everybody likes, and I've had this discussion at work, and everybody said, well, Kobe was just a cheap imitation of Michael Jordan. Absolutely not. See, he had learned his game in the Euro League. So if you go back and watch Kobe play, he can go to the left, he can go to the right. His game was more refined. Now, was he as dynamic looking? Did he look as dominating as Jordan did on that court? No, he didn't. But there's a reason for that as well. So, he led the league in those first 3 championships. He led the league in fourth quarter scoring the whole time. And whenever you sit there and everybody's like, well, he got there because of Shaq. That's what their argument is, that Shaq carried Kobe to those 3 titles. Is that the same Shaq that had Penny Hardaway, which was a 3rd overall pick, with Shaq being the first? Dennis Scott, who was a 4th overall pick. Nick Anderson, who was an 11th overall pick. Horace Grant, who had already, seen success in the playoffs. That team was set up. If Shaq was the reason why those LA teams were winning, well, then it would make sense that, because a lot of these people that like to, and like I said, this is the thing that gets me about Kobe, is that his legacy is kind of depreciated because he wasn't the media favorite. If Penny Hardaway was so much better than Kobe was, why wasn't Shaq winning in Orlando? Why did he have to come to LA? And why wasn't he winning in LA with those all-star guards of Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones? If Shaq was carrying Kobe, so that doesn't make any sense. You look at his the conference. It was the best conference in the NBA. First off, whenever you're looking at his scoring, which, whenever Kobe finally got his opportunity to be the head guy, leading guy, he was leading the league in scoring. He put out a scoring bonanza like nobody had seen in 20 years since Michael Jordan. Here's the deal. This is the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James here. And this is why I say that LeBron James wouldn't be the leader if Kobe had started sooner, if he didn't have 2 all-star guards, is because Kobe was scoring at an efficient and high rate in the time whenever the league average was only 96 points a game. Whenever Jordan was making his case for being the greatest and breaking all these scoring records, he was doing it whenever the league was scoring 109 points. And LeBron James, well, right now the league is inflated up to 112 points a game. Kobe was doing it against teams that were like, he had the Oklahoma City Thunder with Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. He had the San Antonio Spurs with Ginobili, Parker, Tim Duncan. He had the Denver Nuggets that had Allen Iverson, Carmelo Anthony. He had to face the Dirk Mavs. He had to face Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady in Houston. that league was stacked from top to bottom with talent. And it was probably the toughest conference in NBA history. And for him to go through that conference just to get he had to play, he's the only player that he has the most 50-win teams that he's ever had to play in the playoffs at 86%. There's no way that LeBron's going to ever catch that kind of rating as far as like playing that many 50-win teams in the playoffs. And he's one of the few players who beat 4 50-win teams, and not to mention a super team that was, Paul Pierce. This is the same team that ended up putting LeBron out of the playoffs whenever he had Shaq, Antoine Jameson, Mo Williams. He had a pretty good cast, comparable to Kobe's cast. And, but Kobe ended up beating a Boston Celtics team with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen, all future Hall of Famers. And that's basically what Kobe saw day in and day out. That was the level of competition that he had to play against. Whenever you compare it side by side, and this is why I used to be say that Jordan was the greatest ever. He was the greatest basketball player ever. There's nothing you can say to convince me otherwise. And then I started looking into the level of competition, what Kobe had to go through, what Kobe had to endure. And I said, what really makes a great player is a player that, the deck is stacked up against him. And the deck was really stacked up against Kobe the whole time he was in the league. He had all these media people. This is why Kobe has like the second most top 5 finishes for MVP voting, but he only has 1 MVP. All these other players that have so many they at least have 4, but Kobe has 1. This tells you that the media had a grudge against Kobe. They did not like Kobe. They knew that Kobe had skipped college, and then he wasn't a big fan of AAU basketball. Stuff that the NBA marketed off of. And, Kobe's sitting there saying, yeah, a lot of this stuff is kind of a big scam. And was he wrong? Was he right? Should he have kept his mouth shut? That's not the kind of person that Kobe was. Just as Big Kev said, he used to practice with the Philadelphia 76ers whenever he was in high school. And they would sit there and he'd say, oh, what's it like guarding Jordan? And they said, oh, what? Do you mean Black Jesus? And he goes, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, you can call him Black Jesus or Black Jack, but you don't never. And he goes, I'm going to call him fucking Mike. That's his fucking name. And whenever I go to the league, I'm going to go at him. So he wasn't intimidated. And whenever you see the contest, which, I'm sure Kev will have some more to add in on this, but whenever you see the contest between Kobe and Mike, it was pretty close. It was pretty respectable. In fact, it was kind of like, to me personally, because I watched it actually, and it's, for a teenager that's 18 years old to come out and hang with the best person at that point in time that we had ever seen play basketball, and for him to hang and not be intimidated and to get right back up whenever he missed a shot, he's back there on the next play, right on defense. He's not intimidated. That's kind of impressive. He has 12 all defensive teams. He has, and for those, he led the league in scoring, being the best offensive player and defensive player. He has played out of his 43 playoff appearances. He's had to play 37 50-win teams, which is good for 86%. Out of those, he beat 26 of them. And, and like I said, he's the only player out of everybody on this group that, you go back and look at Michael Jordan. Whenever Michael Jordan was playing in the 80s, he didn't start winning titles until he got Scottie Pippen. And even whenever he got Scottie Pippen, it took him a few years to win titles. Without Scottie, Jordan was 1-9 in the playoffs. However, Kobe Bryant is the only player in NBA history not only to lead a team without another top 75, not Larry Bird, not Wilt Chamberlain, not Bill Russell, none of these players. He's the only player to take a team to 3 consecutive finals and win back-to-back titles without one other top 75 player, not LeBron James. LeBron James has had 14 great players on his team that are probably going to be future Hall of Famers. So, whenever you look at the statistics and you take the time and era that Kobe faced, whenever you take the level of competition, he wasn't like Jordan was facing guys like Kendall Gill, Stacey Augmon. He was facing guys that were not even close to the same level as he was because he played in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference was a lot harder than the Eastern Conference. So he was having to play the Cavaliers, which, had Brad Daugherty was probably their best player. He was playing the Atlanta Hawks at the time, which, didn't have anybody that could really compete. And then whenever you have the best, the second best wingman on your team, well, you're going to win 6 NBA titles. So I had to look at it and I had to ask myself, if I took Kobe and put him in the 80s and the 90s, whenever the scoring was a lot higher back then, and then put Scottie Pippen beside Kobe, how many rings does Kobe win? And then on the other end, because, to me, the ultimate test for Michael Jordan was playing Akeem Olajuwon in the NBA Finals, playing those Houston Rockets teams. He retired for those 2 years. So for me, that's an incomplete, because I could tell you one person who feared Hakeem, and said that, if they ever got out, the Rockets ever got out of the playoffs and got out of the Western Conference, then there'd be no way that they could beat him. That would have been the test that I would have had to see for Jordan for me to sit there and say, okay, he beat Hakeem. He has to be the greatest. He beat all his peers, all the top players in that era. But, it was still a little incomplete. Kobe had to play Tim Duncan every year, which was the other top player in his era. It would be like Jordan playing basically Bill Russell. And, he went head to head, toe to toe with the Spurs, and that Spurs team was no joke. And I just, the Knicks team that Jordan played were good, but they weren't on the level. We've seen what happened whenever he played the Boston Celtics. They swept him. The only real game that he won before Scottie Pippen got there in the 80s was against against Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks. That was the only playoff game that he won. He just won one against Milwaukee. And before Scottie got there, before Phil got there, he really wasn't that dominant in the playoffs. He was one of these guys that's kind of like Patrick Mahomes, who would score a lot of points in the regular season. He would even score a lot of points in the playoffs, but he wasn't that guy that was contending for titles until Phil got there, until Scottie got there, until they could get some pressure off of him, and until, they got him more help. Kobe had to, pretty much will himself to the last 3 playoff appearance, or the last 3 NBA finals, winning 2 out of the 3. I think that's impressive. I just think that he had to overcome way more than Jordan did. I think he had to overcome way more than Kobe did. I think that the league was, not kind to Kobe. You look at the level of competition that they stacked up against him. They would put super teams in front of him, and he still managed to end up, he ended up making 7 NBA finals. He ended up winning 5 of them for 60%, which is a little bit better than LeBron James's, I believe. He only has 1 less title than Michael Jordan. So if you're going off of titles, he has 1 less since the post-merger NBA. He has 1 less than Jordan. He has 1 less than Kareem. But he has 1 more appearance than both of those guys. And like I said, whenever you look at his supporting cast, while Paul Gasol is a good player, he's probably a very serviceable player. He'd probably be, a pretty decent player anywhere else, but he's not a top 75 player. I don't even know if he's in the Hall of Fame. He should be. I don't know. But definitely all the LeBron rosters are stacked. And Jordan definitely, especially, Jordan played with 6 Hall of Famers. Whenever Jordan came in the league, He got to play with Orlando Woolridge, which was Oboe Cop, or they called him Oboe Cop. But he was a very, very dominant small forward. So he had talent around him whenever he first started. He got to play with another Hall of Famer named Artest Gilmore, which was essentially like the Kareem of the ABA before the merger happened. And so, he was a 7'2" big center to go ahead and give Jordan some relief and, still couldn't get it done. And then he got to play with one of my favorite players of all time, George Gervin, coming from the San Antonio Spurs, who was essentially like the Kevin Durant of his days. And he was only 33, and Michael Jordan kind of disrespected him. He only played 1 year in Chicago and left Chicago, but he was still scoring pretty he was still scoring, and they could have used him. But no doubt that Jordan has had a lot of help over his careers, even before he got Scotty. But really, at the end of the day, I think that it was Phil Jackson, which is the same Phil Jackson that helped Kobe coming in. Really, it was Phil Jackson that started to give Kobe a lot of his shots and give a lot of his looks. And, like I said, he was the ultimate competitor. And I don't see that in LeBron. I do see it in Jordan, though. I will say this. Jordan was the ultimate competitor. So it was always fun to watch Jordan and Kobe go at it. And by the time LeBron got into the league, he was forming super teams to take on Kobe Bryant because LeBron couldn't beat Kobe one-on-one. So anyways, I'll go ahead and pass this mic to Big Kev and let him go ahead and make his argument.
First of all, let me address LeBron. LeBron, whatever you want to call him. LeBron gives up on his teammates a lot, and it's been shown while he played with the Cavs, while he played with the Lakers. Here's the thing about Michael. Michael went to college. He only went to college for 3 years. He didn't stay for his senior year. Michael came out around that time. And what Prodigal Heel was saying, yes, Michael didn't start getting success until Phil Jackson came in, but neither did Kobe Bryant, because there's the 3 years he had that championship. He runs Shaq out. He runs Phil Jackson out of LA, and he struggles for a while until Phil Jackson comes back as his head coach. So that's the biggest key for that. Michael Jordan. Now I don't know where they got this whole. I do know where they got this at. Rudy Tom, the former Rockets coach, Rudy T, is the one that came out and said that Michael was scared of Olajuwon. The one thing is, I know that's completely utter bullshit because Michael's never been scared of anybody.
Actually, it was Michael that said that. I just wanted to go and correct that.
Michael never did say that. I had never seen a video of Michael saying that. If he did, he was messing around with it.
Yeah, I seen a video of Michael Jordan saying that if Hakeem ever got out of the Western Conference, the Bulls wouldn't be able to stop him. That was from Michael. I didn't hear it from Rudy Tomjanovich.
Well, I looked it up, and then they said it was from Rudy T. So, I don't know. Anyway, the way I look at it is this. Michael was the ultimate competitor. He was the ultimate shark. He went into when they had practices, when the Bulls practices were like regular season games. Michael did abuse his teammates. Michael's the kind of guy that would go into an opposing person's locker room and say that who's guarding him. He actually did this a few times. Who's guarding me? They'll say, who's guarding me? And he said he would drop 50, and Michael would drop 50. Michael dropped 63 points on a Boston Celtics team that not many people could beat except for the Lakers probably back in the day. Now, did Michael get success with Scottie? Absolutely, but Michael's also admitted that he's gotten success with Scottie Pippen. Michael's only played with 3 All-Stars. That's all he's ever played for. And Luke Longley does not count as an All-Star or as a good player because Luke Longley is definitely not that kind of player. Michael did play in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference was a stronger conference. I will give the Prodigal Heel that. They were a stronger conference. But Michael had to endure a lot of stuff. Now, just think about it this way. He got injured. He missed 62 games in 86 due to a foot injury. Imagine if he played 82 games. Imagine if Jordan didn't retire that first time and he played those full seasons. And he was dealing with a front office he was dealing with a general manager who wanted to tear apart a dynasty team to rebuild the Bulls. He was trying to kick Pippen out, Jordan out, Rodman out, Phil Jackson out. If they would have stayed during the time that the NBA went on, when they went on that strike, it would have been San Antonio and the Bulls in the NBA Finals that year. So Michael would have been tested then with a young Tim Duncan and a David Robinson. The thing with Michael and Kobe's admitted that Michael's the one that taught him how to do the fadeaway. He asked Michael in the mid-game how to work on that. And in the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, Kobe pretty much says, what you see from me is from him. I wouldn't be who I was if it wasn't for Michael. So I rest my case on that.
All right. Is this an open forum now?
Yeah. I can go ahead and continue. I was going to throw some shots now. LeBron is the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan was in a weak Eastern Conference that's weaker than when I was in the league. All right. And it took you forever to beat those bad boy Pistons and those Boston Celtics when they were aging. And
I remember the last time you played the Boston Celtics down there, and Jason Tatum, you were throwing up a brick for a layup, I think.
Was that enough? Was that choke job you guys had against the Phoenix Suns, up 3-1?
I just remember you crying. You should have put that picture up there.
I don't ever cry. I cry after I win titles.
Yeah.
I win.
Yeah.
I always win.
Yeah.
Well, here's something for you. Right before right before LeBron came into the league, he joined the Michael Jordan camp, and he had to sit there for hours while they were playing pickup games. They actually did play together. They actually did win, but then there's actual footage and photos of them two playing against each other, and Jordan dropped 45 on a young LeBron James at the age of 40.
Shit.
So,
yeah. LeBron went to like a lot of camps because he went to Kobe's camp too.
And Michael and Kobe both struck fear in a lot of players. I don't see a lot of people scared of LeBron. And here's the thing too. You don't call yourself the GOAT. Michael never called himself the GOAT. Kobe never called himself the GOAT. LeBron came out and have said, "Hey, I'm the GOAT because I beat the Golden State Warriors." Let me clarify something. That Golden State Warrior team that won more games than the Bulls did, they would not even beat Michael in the NBA Finals, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Michael would shut down Steph Curry because Michael always guarded the best players, and so did Kobe. And Kevin Durant would have a hard time with not only Dennis Rodman but with Scottie Pippen as well. So, and I also think that the Lakers would have beaten that Warriors team.
Well, the Lakers played a harder team than that Golden State team, right? You know that, right, Steven?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the New Jersey Nets. For the NBA Finals. There's only one player up here, by the way, that dropped 81 points, which is the second most highest, and the lowest scoring time in the league, which is Kobe Bean Bryant right here. 81 points.
So I'm looking at their statistics right now. Michael, in his 14-year career, averaged a career of 31.6 per game, Kobe 25.5 per game, and LeBron James 27 point per game. Now, Michael has more steals than both LeBron and Kobe. LeBron's got more rebounds. Michael shot 49%. Kobe only shot 45% of his career. Now, they have both played more games than Michael did. But I look at it like this. Imagine what Michael would have done. Imagine how many championships Michael would have won if him and Scottie would have had like another – if Michael would have played with like Magic and Patrick Ewing and all of them. Imagine how much –
Well, I do know that Kobe did put up 55 on Mike after Mike said that Kobe couldn't fill those shoes. I remember that. And I also remember I think that Scottie Pippen called Kobe Bryant daddy now because he beat him out of the playoffs every time he faced him. They would always put the Portland Trailblazers out. and it was Scotty's job to go ahead. And Scotty was a lockdown defender now. Even still, whenever he was playing Kobe Bryant, he was still a pretty much lockdown defender. And Kobe still went straight at him, didn't show any fear. Embarrassed Scotty. He was, like I said, whenever you look at Kobe Bryant, and of course, like I said, yeah, you can go ahead and say that LeBron James probably has more wins over Kobe Bryant, but LeBron James was also on these super teams and stuff too. He had to jump from team to team. Kobe Bryant stuck with one team his whole career.
Well, actually, Kobe almost was so pissed off with the Lakers, he almost went to Chicago. That was his second choice. When he was mad that year that they got rid of Shaq and they got rid of Phil Jackson, he ran Phil Jackson out of LA for a little bit. And I'm sitting there thinking, you didn't get any more success until Phil came back to the Lakers. And that is when Kobe got those rings.
Shots fired.
When he came back. Now,
but did he add another top 75 player? Like I said, whenever Jordan was going through those last 3 playoff appearances, he also had Rodman on his team as well. So, I mean, he had 4 Hall of Famers on that team because Tony Kukoc is in the Hall of Fame too.
Tony Kukoc is in the Hall of Fame from his stuff he did in Croatia, but yeah.
Yeah, but he was still a top player. He was. I didn't even know he was in the Hall of Fame.
Phil Jackson,
just for the record, I've been to the finals more than both of you guys combined.
Yeah, and you've cried a lot. You had a lot of tears in those games. Yeah, I think you've had 6 more tears than you've had.
Who's done more flopping? Who's done more flopping to get calls and then cries when he doesn't get his calls?
Oh, I still remember the time that y'all had to play my San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals, and they whooped you by an average of fucking 20 points a game. The super team heat.
And that was with an aging Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
And let's not forget, too, and this is something I would like to clarify, too, that game where Kobe dropped 55 on Jordan, Jordan also blocked his shot and stole from him and actually went down there to dunk as well. So, yeah, I mean, Michael and Kobe went at each other. And Kobe always called him little brother. He's the one that always called Michael when he had a question. He would call Michael at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and ask him, like, how do I defend this guy? How do I go penetrate here? And stuff like that. So Kobe pretty much said he owes his career to Michael. If it wasn't for Michael, he wouldn't be who he was. And he actually admitted that on the Last Dance documentary.
Well, let's go ahead and say that both Michael and Kobe were actually inspired by Dr. J. So that's really the grandfather of it all, because Dr. J was the guy that inspired Michael. Kobe's dad played with Dr. J. No doubt that Kobe probably met Michael, probably got inspired by Michael because Michael was the closest thing to Dr. J. And so, it's a generational thing. And then,
so
of course,
what about me? Who was my game close to?
I'd say your game was probably close to Derek Coleman.
Derek Coleman? That's slow.
Actually, I'll give LeBron credit. I think his passing and getting his teammates involved reminds me of Magic.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit closer to Magic. If he had a number 1 guy, then even if he had a bigger center or something like that through most of his career, he would have probably been better. And I think that was the direction that they were trying to go with him whenever they put him with Shaq. But Shaq wasn't Kareem,
Here's the thing, too. Michael never wanted to play with his friends. He wanted to murder his friends. Like coaches, like Jeff Van Gundy accused Michael of whining and dining Patrick Ewing in the playoffs just so he can go and murder him in the playoffs.
Damn.
So Michael was accused of a lot of different things. Like he would come up with scenarios in his head of a player talking trash to him, and then use that as motivation. Now, Kobe was also hard on his teammates as well, but that's because both of them have the killer instinct in them. I don't see that with LeBron. LeBron's not clutch like Michael and Kobe is. If there is between the three of them, if there's 2 seconds left on that clock, I'm trusting Mike with the ball than I am with the other two. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Michael's got more clutch shots than both guys.
And like I said, I would have to go with Kobe because the whole time that Kobe was doing his playoff run, he led the league in fourth quarter scoring. So whenever the game's on the line, I'm going to want Kobe in there just because he's been more proven to be more, he's had more points scored in that fourth quarter. Whenever the game's on the line and you need those points, Kobe's going to go ahead and light up that fourth quarter at the last minutes. So, but the whole deal where he would wine and dine Patrick Ewing and stuff like that, Dr. J used to do the same thing. He used to take the guys out and, buddy up with them and then kill them on the court. So that's kind of like a generational thing. I don't know if LeBron does that, but I'm pretty sure Kobe's done that before.
No, well, see, LeBron's one of those players who has to be like, I want all my friends on my team.
Hey, Black Lives Matter, brother. Remember that. Black Lives Matter, brother.
Well, what's interesting too is that Michael represented the league in such a really classic way because let's be honest. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say something very controversial here. I do not think Michael retired because of his dad and wanted to play baseball for his dad. I think Daniel, it's never been, they say that it's not, but I believe that David Stern suspended him for those years and a half that he was gone because of those whole gambling allegations.
Well, I heard that conspiracy too, and I think what it is they wanted to protect him because they knew that he wasn't going to be able to beat the Rockets that year. There'd be no way. I don't think the Bulls would have beat the Rockets. Not with that front court of Cassell, Vernon Maxwell, Kenny Smith, Robert Horry. I think that it was to protect him so he could be, because he'd have been 6-2 if he had to face Hakeem Olajuwon, and especially when they got Clyde Drexler on that team. I don't think that they would have been able to beat the Rockets. I really don't.
My 2012 Heat would have won.
I don't know because Jordan also had. That was the year that Horace Grant went to the All-Star game finally in that 93-94 year, and we gotta admit, Phil Jackson's is the greatest coach probably to ever coach an NBA game. So you talk about Gasol and Kenny Smith and all them. What answer would they have for Michael and Scotty?
Vernon Maxwell would have shut them down. That was the best defensive team. And you're talking about Hakeem Olajuwon was probably one of the greatest defensive big men of all times. So it would have been hard. They would have struggled. And like I said, you go back and you watch the Basketball Time Machine, and they have clips of Michael admitting that, because you go back and look, you can find video of Hakeem blocking Michael 4 times whenever he met Michael initially. So they would have had like no inside game. They would have had to, and like I said, they called it Clutch City for a reason. Those guards could score 3-pointers just as good as the Indiana Pacers could, if not better. So it would have been hard for them to, they wouldn't have been able to, not with Otis Thorpe and Hakeem Olajuwon. They were just too good defensively, and they could score at a quick pace, man. I'm just telling you, even
Michael averaged 30 points a game, 30.6 per game in 17 games against Vernon Maxwell.
He wouldn't have been able to beat him. I'm telling you. It would have been, Hakeem, that was Hakeem's time. There was no way Hakeem was losing that. And no, they wouldn't have been able to do that inside game. Hakeem would have shut it down. You're talking about a guy who went toe-to-toe with, and beat Kareem in his first playoff game. or in his first playoff run whenever he went to the NBA Finals against the Celtics. So, yeah, he.
Well, here's the thing, though. Every big center you can think of, Ewing, David Robinson, Dikembe Mutombo, Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, they've all been posterized by MJ.
Yeah, but there's only one thing that you're forgetting is that Hakeem could literally guard guards. He could guard a guard. He had the speed, he had the stamina, he had the ability to guard guards. So even if Michael was to say get off a screen off of Vernon Maxwell, Hakeem could keep up with Mike. Shaq couldn't. Shaq would be able to keep up with Mike. Robinson could, but he wouldn't be able to guard Mike. You know, Dikembe couldn't guard Mike, but Hakeem could guard guards. You know, and he did it. He proved it.
Wait, here's something for I've always wanted to know this about the whole LeBron thing is that Michael and Kobe, they've got their shares of losses. They've had to come back and get stronger and get better. But why is it when the Lakers didn't make the playoffs that he decides to walk out on his team in the middle of the fourth quarter?
Good question. Got any answers, Steven?
I don't really have a lot of answers for that. I was just having a bad game. I'm still the GOAT.
He didn't want to bring down his statistics.
Let's put it like this. Once I get to 40,000 points, that's going to be enough to shut you guys up once and for all.
Oh, by the way, Michael did Space Jam first, and plus his Space Jam made more money than LeBron's, just so you know.
Oh, y'all a bunch of haters. Y'all just Max. I'm about to get 40,000 points.
And Kobe wasn't an actor. Like LeBron is acting like a basketball player.
Hey, brother, Black Lives Matter, brother.
Well, you know what, though? If Kobe didn't die in that plane crash, his daughter was getting really good. His daughter probably could have outscored LeBron's kid.
Yeah. She'd probably be
a little too far.
Should probably be roasting LeBron right now on the court.
My son's going to score at least 80,000.
Well, here's something this is the biggest thing that I've always wanted to know. I honestly believe if Jerry Krause did not ruin that Bulls team and they would have stayed until the year 2000, I think that 2000 Lakers team would have finally put the end of Jordan, Scottie, and Dennis Rodman. I do believe that.
They probably would have lost to the Spurs too. Like I said, it was all Jordan could do for that 98 season to make it all the way through that season.
Michael had a lot to endure in that 98 season because not only did Scottie miss half the year and they were threatening to trade Scottie for Tracy McGrady, he had to deal with Dennis Rodman wanting to take breaks and be gone and go to Las Vegas for a couple weeks. And so, yeah, Michael's the biggest thing was, I actually will be honest and admit this as a Jordan fan. I was scared when they faced the Pacers in that Eastern Conference. When they went to that game 7, but I knew when Michael went up there and said, look, we're not going to lose this game, I knew he meant that.
I will say that's probably a missed opportunity for the Bulls. Yeah, you probably don't win the NBA Finals in 98 if you trade Scottie Pippen, but you get Tracy McGrady and you could build around him, and you knew that Jordan wasn't going to be there for much longer because he was getting towards the end of his career. So,
he was playing. He that's the thing about Michael. He took a lot of pay cuts just to keep the core around. He pretty much had a 1-year contract every year that he signed with the Bulls. It was a 1-year deal every year. And here's the thing: in '93, when he faced the Suns, Charles Barkley won the MVP that year. The Suns had the best record in the league. Michael used that as motivation. and showed the world why he should have won MVP then. Karl Malone decides to win MVP in '97. They give it to him. Michael goes and shows. Hell, Michael had to deal with some Utah Jazz fans giving him some basically poison pizza that he had to deal with because he was wanting a pizza there in the middle of the night. They decided to order a pizza, and he was older sick with this flu, and still dropped 38 on the Utah Jazz. They had 2 Hall of Famers, 2 gold medalists in John Stockton and Karl Malone.
Well, Kobe's played a game one-handed with his left hand before because he injured himself, and he lost the game, but still, that takes a lot of willpower to do that. And like I said, you look at the teams that he had to face, especially like with that Boston Celtics team that had loaded up to go ahead and win multiple finals, and he had to play the Phoenix Suns, he had to play the Spurs, he had to play the Mavericks, he had to play the Rockets, and all these teams are fully loaded specifically to prevent Kobe from getting to the NBA Finals. And I think he would have won that 4th one, but you had some the league send Jerry Stackhouse and Rip Hamilton, that Detroit Pistons team was set up very suspiciously to go ahead and make sure that Kobe didn't win that 4th ring.
And Rasheed Wallace was traded during the All-Star break too, from Portland to Detroit.
Yeah, which was absolutely insane because Kobe would have probably won Shaq and Kobe. It would have still been the Shaq and Kobe show. And while Shaq was putting up more points than Kobe on the boards, Kobe was getting more assists and accumulating more points during that.
That was Rasheed Wallace. Fun fact: he was the first and only NBA player for to be a top star, one of the top stars in the league, to be traded during the All-Star break and then won an NBA Finals with that team. Like, he's the only player that did that.
Well, I will give Kobe credit, and this is something that I will definitely say about Kobe Bryant. When you're dealing with rape charges and you're going into court like during the day, and then you're flying back to play a game, and Kobe's over there saving that Laker team, and actually they had Karl Malone and Gary Payton and Shaquille O'Neal, and he's dropping 40 on people while he's dealing with the fact that he might go to prison for the rest of his life. You got to give Kobe credit.
And I'll tell you this about those rape charges, and I want to go ahead and get this out there because I fell for the shit too whenever I was, watching the NBA and watching Kobe do his thing, and this is one of the things that I didn't like about him. However, the same bitch that went ahead and, set this whole thing up against Kobe is the same one that went after Michael Jackson. She went after Bill Cosby. She went after Donald Trump. She's that's what she does. She's a fucking hit. Yeah, Gloria Allred. You could look her up. She's one of these hit women for people. And when did this happen? It happened in 2003, right before Kobe came into the league. And why would they want to go ahead and set up Kobe, I was already hearing about Kobe being close to Jordan back then, whenever he was coming out off of ESPN. However, this is one of those things that Stephen Rose could probably do an episode on later on. But whenever you look at Kobe, he came straight out of high school. They didn't want Kobe to have the same kind of success. They didn't want these kids to come out of high school straight into the NBA. He didn't like the AAU and a lot of these, because, he played a lot of his ball in Europe. And that's where he was kind of being trained up and stuff like that. So the NBA markets off of Jordan. So they didn't want Kobe to be the next Jordan because they make merchandise whenever these kids go to these schools like North Carolina, Indiana, Michigan. They want you to buy those jerseys. It's a marketing thing. Well, then you get LeBron James coming straight out of high school, and then they promote him. Well, what's the difference? LeBron was the product of a single mother, so they could play to that in the NBA. And that's exactly why they wanted to go from Jordan to LeBron. They didn't want to ever give. They set the league up against Kobe at every, and then he still overcame all of that with the media working against him. That's why Kobe only has one MVP, and he's had several MVP years.
Well, hey guys, it's already been an hour. I gotta head back, man.
Okay.
All right, man.
I'll let y'all go ahead and wrap it up, and I gotta head out, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks.
All right, have a good one. Are you still there? We're still on? Okay.
Yeah, Steven's still on.
But yeah, that was I think that's one of the reasons why, like I said, whenever I went back and I started looking at Kobe's stats and who he had to play against and the stuff that Kobe had to go through and overcome, it was a lot different than it was for like LeBron and Jordan to me. And I'm like, he played like the greatest player of his time, comparable to Bill Russell and Tim Duncan. And, each of them have 5 titles. And, if Tim Duncan isn't in the league and he's not winning all those titles, I wonder how much Kobe would have won.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we basically ran LeBron out of here. LeBron did.
Well, that's no surprise.
LeBron is gone. Had really no argument whatsoever. The fact that he was just a GOAT and everything like that. The only adversity I heard Michael had to deal with besides the gambling thing was there was someone in North Carolina that was running, and it was like a Democrat that was black that was running, and they wanted Michael to support him. But Michael looked at it like, hey, Republicans and Democrats both buy my sneakers, not just one. So Jordan didn't get into the whole political thing, and neither did Kobe. LeBron's all about being political, and I believe the politics has nothing to do with the game itself. And
agreed. You never seen Kobe take a knee or do any of this stupid, corny stuff that the media does, and you never seen Michael do that too. If somebody wanted an autograph, Michael signed it. If somebody wanted an autograph, Kobe signed it. It was all about the fans for them.
Michael did an interview once with the Mobber Shot, and he said that him and Kobe were both cursed the same way. And the reason why he meant that is that they would play 35, 40 minutes a night. They would score 30, 40 points a game, but they would also play the best. They would defend the best players against the other team, and they would defend those guys. And, Kobe's over there going after point guards and going after people like that. And I think that's the reason why Kobe got that injury that he did with that Achilles heel. And I feel like if he didn't get that Achilles heel, Kobe would have played at least 2 or 3 more seasons.
Well, I always said this right here. If I was going to build a team and set it up, if I know I'm going to get Kobe, right? Let's just say that. I don't bring in Shaq. Shaq is a good, strong center. He's a bully. Don't get me wrong. But, Kobe's more of an athletic point guard and stuff like that. I think he needs a more consistent. You could get a center that's not as high of a scorer, but a consistent scorer. This would have been my team I would have put around Kobe to build success for him. I would have put Jerry Stackhouse on the opposite side. I would have gotten Alonzo Mourning, and I would have gotten Jason Kidd, which all 3 were let go by their respective teams pretty close to whenever Kobe was coming out. Various years before, but you could have gotten those teams a hell of a lot cheaper than you could have gotten Shaquille O'Neal. And I think that team, because you're looking at Jason Kidd being a top-tier defending point guard, you're looking at Alonzo Mourning being a pretty strong, more athletic version. Well, he's more athletic. He's not as big, but he's more athletic than Shaq was. And then I think Jerry Stackhouse would have made sure that the NBA defenses, and then it would have been weird because, like I said, they had Eddie Jones, they had Nick Van Exel, so they had all-star guards already. And, like I said, Kobe didn't have a lot of chances starting at first because they set him on the bench. And I get it. I understand it. When you have 2 veteran players that have been there and dedicated so much to your team, well, you're going to start those guys first. But,
You also got to keep in mind too, Kobe also in 2012 tried to do a semi super team with a Steve Nash and a Dwight Howard, but Dwight Howard's attitude was not he was not used to having Kobe pretty much being his face.
Well, the thing about Dwight Howard, now I'll go ahead and give Dwight Howard a little bit of credit, is that whenever Dwight Howard joined the Lakers, he had already had back problems. So he missed a lot of time. And the same thing with Steve Nash. They set it up, but it was already too late. Those guys were already, uh, their conditioning and all that kind of stuff. They just wasn't going to. And Kobe missed a lot of time, too. In fact, one of the reasons why Kobe got that injury is because he was playing so many minutes. Well, when you're having to do everything for your team, and he had, like I said, up until the point he got Paul Gasol, he had Smush Parker, he had Lamar Odom. He didn't have anybody really to facilitate him. So it's easier to guard. And this is why I say that Jordan had so much success in the 90s is because you couldn't just focus on Jordan, because when you focus on Jordan and you're going to lock up Jordan, you're going to try to shut Jordan down. Now Scottie Pippen's going to get you. And if you're guarding and locking down Scottie Pippen, Jordan's going to get you. And then you still had probably one of the best point guards at that time in the league, and Ron Harper, who's very underrated, but he played like a true point. It's kind of like today. Everybody says how great Steph Curry is at point guard. I still say Lonzo Ball would be the first point guard that I would take because he plays like a true point.
That's the biggest thing I have with this whole situation, and that's what I have against LeBron James fans. And if you see this later, LeBron James fans, I want you to get your tissues ready for this. How can you think that man is the greatest of all time when he's given up on his teammates? He took his ball and ran away from Cleveland because he couldn't beat San Antonio. So he builds a super team, still could not beat Dallas, still could not beat. He lost to San Antonio. Yes, he beat San Antonio once, but that's when Tim Duncan was on his last leg. You're talking about he won one with the Lakers, yeah, but he got Anthony Davis on his team, and they faced a Miami Heat team that was not ready. They were young. So
I mean, what LeBron did would be the same thing as if Michael Jordan said, you know what? Me, Olajuwon, and Stockton are all going to go down to Houston, and we're going to win an NBA championship. And Michael never done that. Michael was on some, well, I won't say that they were completely garbage, especially the first 2 years that he was in there, because he had some Hall of Famers with him. But somewhere right before Scotty, he was on some pretty trash teams that didn't even make the playoffs.
That Bulls team would have made the NBA Finals in 1990. They took the Pistons to the Game 7. If Scottie Pippen at that time finally went to his first All-Star game, Pippen finally started coming into his own in 1990. If Pippen didn't get the migraine that he got in that game, the Bulls would have went and faced the Blazers instead of the Pistons. And that's something and they showed that because the next year they pretty much swept the Pistons.
Now get this, because a lot of people don't understand this right here, and this would have been really scary, and then we don't know what would have happened if this would have happened. However, whenever Jordan was being drafted, the Houston Rockets were going to send Ralph Sampson because the Trailblazers, was it the Blazers? Yeah, it was the Blazers, wanted a big man. That's why they got Sam Bowie in the second overall. That's why Jordan fell to the third pick. And at this point in time, Ralph Sampson was seen as the next, Kareem, basically. He was the next big guy, went to an all-star, rookie of the year, scored a lot of points, 7'4", big post-up player that you can depend on. And the Houston Rockets was going to send him to the Clippers in exchange for that second pick overall in Clyde Drexler. So you were really close to Jordan going to Houston, joining Hakeem, and joining Clyde Drexler and the Houston Rockets would have essentially been the Phi Slamma Jamma of the NBA, because that's what the Rockets were trying to create, was a Phi Slamma Jamma team that they had so much success with in Houston. They were trying to create that in the NBA, and they wanted Michael Jordan, and they wanted Clyde Drexler, and they were going to run that in Houston. So you would have had Hakeem, Michael, and Clyde all in Houston.
And you know what would have been interesting? If Jordan didn't go and come back and play for the Wizards, which I believe the Wizards kind of fucked up his chances of going to the playoffs that year when he hurt his knee. They fucked with Michael on that one. But if Michael didn't go and Michael wanted to play, imagine Michael coming to LA that year as a small forward playing with Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah, and like I said, there was a lot of scenarios, but like I said, I think that ultimately the league was dead set against, wanting anybody at this point in time to replace Jordan, and so that's why I think that they set it up against Kobe. And like I said, yeah, Kobe did take a lot, especially on defense. He took a lot of ideas because Kobe was the top defender of his day. And Jordan was the top defender of his day. Kobe has 12 all defensive teams. Michael has 9. And he took a lot of advice on Michael on defense, on how to fill the defenses and stuff like that. And I think that the league knew that Kobe could essentially, be the next step in the NBA. But they didn't want Kobe to be the next step in the NBA. I think they wanted LeBron the whole time that LeBron's coming up in high school, going to these NBA camps, went to Jordan's camp, went to Kobe's camp, and they said, oh, he's got a single mom. This is what we're going to try to push out there, because you look at how political the NBA has become now. And, that's what it is now. It's kind of like a show. Everybody shoots 3-pointers. And, the era that Kobe played in with the Detroit Pistons and the San Antonio Spurs, like I said, it was the lowest scoring time in NBA history. Well, now they don't play any defense hardly at all.
Here's something too, is that if we're talking about the NBA now and how their defenses is set up, they don't hand check, they don't put their elbows on people anymore. Michael and Kobe both would be averaging 40 or 50 points a game.
Easy. And like I said, Kobe was, because you look at, I think that Michael's highest scoring year was in the 80s. I think he scored 37 points a game.
Yeah, in 87.
And
yep.
Yeah. So you look at Michael, and if you were to take the numbers, right, and you were to do the percentages, then ultimately it would be like 32 in Kobe's era. But you take LeBron's numbers, because LeBron's, it's even more than Mike's was. And it would be even lower in the 90s. So, his highest year, he's not scoring 40,000 in that NBA. If he comes out in 98, 99, he's not scoring 40,000 points. And I doubt that he's scoring 40,000 points. Well, actually, if he had to play against Jordan, which he came out with the Cavaliers, if he had to play against Jordan, he probably would have retired in 2 or 3 years. He'd have been like Derek Coleman. I'm telling you, he would be like that guy, because he just didn't have the mentality. Jordan would feed on him. Jordan, and, I'll say that Jordan is more of a sociopath and Kobe's more of a psychopath. And I think that anybody who's ever played with him would agree with it. But Jordan would just roast his ass. The first time that dude came out and said that he's the GOAT and the King James and, did all these little accolades. Yeah, well, you can ask Muggsy Bogues about that.
Well, Michael, pretty much, there's a story, and this is something, before we wrap it up, I'm going to tell this story. It's a 99-2000 season, Phil Jackson's first year in LA, and he's having a hard time trying to control Kobe, get him used to the triangle and everything. So he calls Michael up. Michael and Ahmad Shad both go to LA. Michael walks right into the Laker locker room, and the first thing Kobe says was, "Did you bring your sneakers?" And Michael's like, "No." He's like, "You need to go back to the hotel and get your sneakers." And then Michael's like, "Why? So I can whoop your ass?" He's like, "Well, no, I would be whooping your ass." And he's like, "Well, you can't guard me. Well, you can't guard you, and I can't guard you. You can." And then they were just going back and forth. And then Michael went over and said, "I like that dude."
Yeah.
And then that's the thing. Both of those guys didn't intimidate each other, and I think that's the reason why they grew a brotherly friendship with each other, because they both did not. They were not afraid of each other. I mean, like, you look at players back then; they were scared of Michael. They were kind of like, what's he going to do? Let's not talk trash, because Kevin Garnett, his rookie season with the Timberwolves, decided to talk some shit to Michael. And they were beating the Bulls that game. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, Michael's like, okay. He becomes like a sociopath and decides to score 20 or 30 points in that fourth quarter. Kobe was the same way. You ran your mouth on Kobe. There's some identical plays between the two. Both shot differently, of course, but there are some identical things where Kobe's fadeaway is a lot like Mike's, a little different, but I think their approach to the game was the same.
Well, see, their approach was definitely the same. The thing about Kobe was that you look at him and you look at how he made his outside shots. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like this, more like a Muhammad Ali style of dance to him whenever he was going up to score, where Michael was more of a cut and shoot. Yeah, he shot threes, and he shot threes effectively, but he was more of a stand-up shooter. Whenever you look at Kobe shooting them threes and stuff like that, you could tell it's like a little bit of a dance, a little bit more of a poetry, where Michael was trying to kill the rim. Kobe was more of a finesse type of guy. And you could tell a lot if you watch his games. And it wasn't until I started watching him score, and I don't want to say, because Kobe's better than Terry Porter, but whenever you watch a lot of Terry Porter's shot and how he would shoot, you'd see a lot of that in Kobe's game too. And so, like I said, both these guys were actually influenced by Dr. J. And no doubt that Dr. J knew Kobe because he played with Kobe's father. So no doubt that he had known them guys, especially if he's playing with the 76ers. He had met Dr. J. And Dr. J was also a guy that Jordan looked up to. So no doubt that Jordan probably knew Kobe, because I'm sure that Kobe had went through a lot of camps, had met, Jordan pretty much was the most dominant player in the 80s. Whenever he came back to the America in the 90s, no doubt he got a chance to meet Jordan. So he had probably met Jordan at some given camp, and he had a head step. So like, if I was to look at it and say, this is why I say it'd be unfair for you to sit there and say, well, who would you take? I would take Kobe, because Kobe had more training as first off going through Europe. And then he also had that, and he also had Michael to learn from coming into the NBA. So, you take in consideration that he learned all the Europe plays in Europe, and he learned the European style, comes back to the America, learns from Michael Jordan. Well, by the time he's 18, 19, and 20, because Kobe could score, like I said, the times that he actually averaged more points than LeBron did in the games where he was able to shoot as much as LeBron did starting out. And so if Kobe was starting coming into the league, then more than likely LeBron would still be trying to catch Kobe right now and scoring. But, it wasn't until those years after Phil left that Kobe actually got a chance to actually have comparable numbers to LeBron and Jordan. And that was, like I said, during the lowest point of the NBA. So if he had that, then, maybe Kobe's the all-time leading scorer too.
I before I end this, I have to pretty much say this to Stephen Rose. When you watch this later, I just want to sit there and say you did not do any favors for LeBron. I'm going to throw that out there right now.
He did one favor. He didn't use the picture of him crying.
Right. And I didn't use the Jordan meme of him crying or him crying at Kobe's funeral, so I didn't use that one either. But I don't think there's one of Kobe crying at all. So
yeah, I would have looked. We should have used them.
You should have, yeah. But anyway, though, I mean, like, it's up to you, fan. You guys in the comment section, and because I know Poston's going to take this video and post it on his. I'm not sure if Steven's going to or not, but it's up to you guys to decide who you guys got. You got Kobe, you got LeBron, you got Michael. Prodigal Heel brought out some excellent points about Kobe. I brought out some excellent points about Michael, and Stephen Rose was acting like he was LeBron James there for about a few minutes. So
he did LeBron right.
Right. So, anyways, I think the next one we should do is I think the next one we should do is who was the greatest quarterback of all time?
Who would you be representing?
I would represent. I don't know. I would represent Joe Montana. I think.
Joe Montana.
Maybe
well,
not.
I'd have to wait until see who Stephen Rose would represent. It's going to be a coin flip between me and between Troy Aikman and Tom Brady. Whichever one that Stephen decides he's going to represent, I'll just represent the other one. I'm pretty sure that Stephen will say Tom Brady though, so I'll probably take Troy Aikman.
Or we can do the greatest world champion of all time. As far as wrestling goes, because I know that you would probably choose somebody from WCCW. But I would like to see who Steven would choose for that. Like, who would he choose as the best world champion of all time in wrestling?
I might have to go with Ric Flair, even though, because WCCW, yeah, we had Kerry Von Erich as the world champion at one point in time. But, I think that Ric Flair was the NWA for a lot of the time. He was the world champion because it was the territories back then.
Yeah.
So, as much as I would like to say Kerry, the longevity and the career wouldn't be there because it was too short. I'd say maybe it would be the best promotion for me. I could say that if you're going to go by promotions and whatnot.
It's weird. I wouldn't even represent WWE in that point. I would represent probably WCW or NWA at that point.
Yeah, because NWA, well, like I said, WCW was a branch off of NWA. So, but yeah, NWA had a lot of good people. Harley Race, Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, of course. And like I said, that's kind of like that wrestling mafia thing. Vince kind of picked off that and, ended up accumulating that into his product. So
I think what we should do is sometime next year when we get closer to the election, we should all have like a presidential debate and try to be like, hey, this is what I would do if I was running the country. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, we could do that. But Stephen Rose is going to say all the shit that I would do, so because that's where he gets a lot of his stuff from. So yeah, you'd be getting the same. You'd be getting the same stuff twice.
Hey, Steven, there's a guy in the comment section saying that his dog can make a better argument for LeBron. That's sad.
But like I said, it did it right. It did it right. Jordan and Kobe were competing, and then as soon as they were beating LeBron, this is like a game of horse. As soon as LeBron was losing, he left.
Yeah, he's got his war paint on for the Houston Texans and all that other stuff, and so we'll see Um, anyways, though, when he posts this video on his, we'll see. We can tally up who picked who. I think that would be a kind of a cool thing to see what the comments would say and who is it, Jordan, LeBron, or Kobe. I mean, either way, though, it's not going to change my mind. It's not going to change Poston's mind. Or I'm surprised Steven Rose is actually liking LeBron. To be honest,
I don't think he likes LeBron really in real life. You know, I mean, he's
James Harden.
Yeah. They could have shown Steph Curry.
Yeah, could have chose Steph Curry over that. At least Steph Curry's got 3 rings. But anyway, though, I want to thank y'all both for being on here. We got the GOAT debate that's going to be on. It's going to be on my channel, but it's also going to be on Poston's channel. And if Steven decides he wants to post it on his, that would be cool too. But like and share and sub, you mofos. And with that, we're out.